The terms of political discourse and commentary are pretty loose and vague. And that's true of capitalism, socialism, democracy. Actually, I don't think these terms can have, terms get precise definitions within the framework of explanatory theories. Outside those theories, they never have precise definitions. So what's motion? What's energy? What's mass? What's velocity? These terms didn't have precise definitions until physics had reached a level of explanatory depth. By 17th, 18th century, they were getting precise definitions, which were incidentally were not the general usage. Of course, the sciences very quickly depart from ordinary usage. If a physicist is studying, say, work, he doesn't look up unemployment statistics. It's a very specific, narrow, precise definition. Well, the social and political sciences haven't reached that point. They don't have far-reaching explanatory theories except in pretty arcane domains, which are pretty remote from human life. So the answer to the question, what is capitalism, is just kind of more or less. I mean, to the extent that a society relies on markets, to the extent that it relies on competition, on wage labor, on a boss-worker relationship, to that extent, it's more capitalist. To the extent it moves in other directions, it's less capitalist. So just in the United States, maybe out at the extreme of capitalist societies, the regimented capitalism of the first post-war era was a different capitalism from the capitalism of the neoliberal era. And others, you look at the Nordic societies, a different form of capitalism. Take a look at the family dictatorships of the Gulf, different form of capitalism, okay? So I don't think we can define it. There are elements of, first of all, we have no capitalist societies, and nothing approximating what a capitalist society is supposed to be. What we actually have is many varieties of state capitalism. That included the old Soviet Union, included Maoist China, includes the Gulf dictatorships, includes the United States, just different varieties of a mix of state intervention and a reliance on the private sector and all kind of intimate interactions. That's true of almost everything we use. Like, take what we're doing now. We're using computers, internet, satellites, microelectronics, so on. Where'd that come from? It came during the period of regimented capitalism, and mostly from the state, either direct state funding or state grants to private institutions. Didn't really go onto the market for about 20, 25 years. The first usable personal computer was 1977, after about 30 years of extensive research and development and innovation, risk, mostly in the public sector. Internet was the same. Didn't get privatized till the 90s. It was being developed in, actually in the lab where I was working in the 1950s. It's, and that's across the board. The same with pharmaceuticals, the same with just about every aspect of the economy. It's a mixture of public, private mixture in various ways and different ways. What is the right way to deal with it? Well, we could debate that. My own feeling, for what it's worth, is essentially the position of the Republican Party under Abraham Lincoln. I think they had it about right, that wage labor is different from slavery only in that it's temporary until a person can become a free man or woman again. That was also the view of industrial workers in the late 19th century. They wanted to free themselves from the tyranny of a boss-worker relationship, which is an assault on human dignity and the Republican rights of free citizens. Rich labor press going into this in detail. Major labor organizations like the Knights of Labor were based on the principle that, in their words, those who work in the mills should own them. The factory girls, so-called young women from the farms who were working in the textile mills, running their own quite lively, interesting press, took the same view. The first populist movement, the real populist movement, not what's called populism today, radical farmers in Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma, wanted to take control of their own lives and enterprises away from the Northeastern bankers who lent the money, charged huge interest, ran the markets. They wanted to do it themselves. They'd have their own banks, their own marketing, and so on, run democratically by participants. Started to link up with the Knights of Labor, the most radical democratic popular movement in American history. It was crushed by force, but I think they had the right idea. We have to adapt it to new circumstances. Well, that's one point of view. You can take other points.